Are you ready to dive in the world of project management? Hit that subscribe button as we explore how to stay relevant in the agile workforce. I saw an interesting statistic the other day. Over 80% of projects fail because of stakeholder engagement issues. A stakeholder is any individual that can be impacted by a decision of the project. This is why stakeholder engagement is so critical to project management in every aspect. You have to start first with identifying who the stakeholders are. This happens early on in the project. You have to identify who potentially can be impacted. Identifying this has to start first. You cannot start this midway through the project. If you're starting this midway through the project, you've already blown through a whole period of time where you could have received feedback. You have to start understanding who can potentially be impacted. And in agile projects, this is even more important, because you need as many individuals that can provide that feedback early on to drive how those deliverables are being shaped. In predictive projects as well, you want to identify who are key influencers and who are providing feedback on these deliverables, who are potentially providing feedback on these toll gate or these phase gate reviews. You want to identify who these secondary individuals or secondary stakeholders potentially could be. You want to identify who all the potential end users are. You want to interview these individuals. You want to find out how and what level of influence they have. You do not want to wait till the end. I see a lot of individuals. Think of this right now. Picture this. Imagine you were just getting your house painted. A project, you were getting your house painted, and you hired a painting company, and you told them, hey, I wanted every room in the house painted. And you told them I wanted it cream white. And he even told them, here's the vendor that I want to use for purchasing the paint. You gave them all the contact information and you thought everything was great, or you assumed. And that contracting organization, instead of communicating with you, the stakeholder, going forward and confirming everything, let's just throw another curveball into that scenario. They go to that vendor that you recommended and they found out that it's out of stock and there's a shortage. It's going to take a significant period of time and there's no other local vendors that can provide that paint. Instead of communicating with that stakeholder and letting them know about the issue, that organization just goes and decides to get something similar and assumes that that stakeholder is going to be fine. They're not going to notice. They go and paint the whole entire house. And then all of a sudden, the stakeholder comes in and says, and immediately identifies and knows, this is not the color I selected. I have a sample right here. And they put the sample right up next to that cream color and they see, this is not it. That's not effective communication. That's not the effective stakeholder engagement. And it really is establishing that relationship, understanding that, hey, let me identify that this is a potential issue. Let me let this stakeholder know. We're going to either have to find another recourse or resolution in order to solve this, or potentially we might have to delay this project from starting. But now there's more rework that has to get done. Who's going to have to pay for that? Is it going to be the homeowner that was expecting that service, or is it going to be that vendor that was providing that service? The vendor was at fault because they didn't involve the stakeholder in that communication. I think we know it's that vendor's, it's the vendor. All they had to do was engage the stakeholder and let them know about that news, that information that was critical. Instead, they wanted to solve it on themselves. The individual that made that decision probably ruined their reputation unless they could prove that they are reliable and they are going to solve that in a prompt and swift manner. That's an example of the reason why stakeholder engagement is important. Like I said, 80% of projects fail according to Harvard Business Review. And that's an overwhelming amount. Start first by identifying the stakeholders. Make sure that you also establish what is the appropriate level of communication that you want to have with those individuals. Identify any risk that those stakeholders feel potentially can impact the project. You want to start a lot of this early on. Obviously, things can change as it goes through the project and as you go through the phases of the project. But you want to start first. One of the first things you want to do once the project has been initiated is conduct that stakeholder engagement and also analysis, identification. You want to start there. 80%. Don't be part of that.
Thank you for joining us today. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more project management content. See you on the next one.